this small book, we believe, is much more important than its size would indicate, because we think that what we've mapped out here in its brief pages is really a paradigm shift on advocacy for Palestine in the United States and on Palestinian activism in the United States. Saliba has outlined very neatly where we want to go, and we particularly have in this book a vision statement which describes the kind of Palestinian state for which we advocate. As he said, democratic, pluralistic, non-militarized, and militarily neutral. In some ways, you could say, building off of the successful model of Costa Rica as a non-militarized state in a troubled region. But I want to talk about a little bit about how there's also in this book a paradigm shift in terms of how we intend to go there. I mean, Saliba has told you what we want. That's a paradigm shift in the sense that we're being much more clear and specific and categorical about what our vision is, rather than just saying, Palestinian state vaguely. But beyond that, we've mapped out, I think, really new territory, and perhaps even more significantly, new territory for how we want to go there. And I want to talk about our approach to advocacy for Palestinian statehood and for peace, which is really a new model. It really is a paradigm shift against or a turn away from patterns that have prevailed for many decades and which still persist to this day, I think, without much benefit. The second thing that I want to do is talk about the need, as spelled out in this book, to build a broad-based coalition in support of a peace based on two states. The basis of our approach to advocacy is first to recognize that the traditional approach has failed. The traditional approach has not succeeded in advancing the cause of Palestine or the cause of peace in the United States because, first of all, Arab American organizations have found themselves isolated and they have not done a good job of building alliances. But more than that, the traditional model has emphasized essentially a negative vision, a critique. And it's a critique that's well-founded. It's a critique that's based on facts. There's nothing far-fetched about it. It's a very solid moral argument about the sins of the occupation and the problems with Israel's behavior and the problems that accrue to the United States because of its close association with that. But it's not surprising that such an approach hasn't gained a lot of traction in the United States because what it leaves out are two crucial elements. The first being, what's in it for the United States? Right, you can make the moral case about the occupation, and you can make a moral case about a lot of significant problems in the world. There's plenty of injustice and what have you. And I think that the traditional approach has either not bothered to make the case for why the creation of a Palestinian state and peace based on two states is plainly in the American national interest, or it's done so in passing. It certainly hasn't emphasized that, and that I don't think it's an indictment of our fellow Americans if we say that they ask always about foreign policy, what's in it for us? It is only normal, it is only natural, it is what states do, it is what publics do. And I think advocates for Palestine and advocates for peace, at least on the Arab side, have been very delinquent when it comes to answering this question. They have not been effective at all in answering that question. The second thing that people want to know is what is, it's not just a question of what's in it for us, but also, in other words, you have to present them with a positive vision. You have to present them with what you're for. If you simply emphasize what you're against, people might say, well, all right, fine, you're against the occupation. There are a lot of complaints, no doubt. Some, maybe most, even all, are legitimate. Fine, and then what? So not only has there been delinquency when it comes to explaining why this is in the national interest of the United States. There's also been delinquency in explaining a proactive, a positive vision, a vision for the future that has positive content, that goes beyond critique, goes beyond complaint, goes beyond grievance, to emphasize what would be good for everyone through the creation of the Palestinian state. And we think that these are unnecessary failures and that they're crippling. So what we have advocated is an approach to arguing in favor of two states and arguing for an end to the occupation based on these 5 principles that answer those 2 questions for Americans. Why is this important to the United States? And let me say this also. It might be countered by defenders of what you might call the traditional approach. That, no, we have argued that it's in the American national interest. We've always said it was in the American national interest. But there's a difference between saying it's in the American national interest and therefore the entire foreign policy agenda of the United States as determined by the foreign policy establishment in Washington needs to be revised and throw the whole thing out. And another thing to say, within the context of what has already been established through the relevant documents, through the hearings, etc., on Capitol Hill, through the consensus of the foreign policy making establishment here, that within that context, without seeking amendation of it, this fits perfectly into that model and into that vision.